Sanje Shindo Mede Bowai, Drogan Nanda Shenla Cheva Sho Yidangur. Oh, yeah, that I did the Yella Dungan Nanda, Chatter Yella, the watching it over Cheche. Oh, yeah. That didn't march a Kalakaro, that's about Puatilla. That's about Puatella, and it Chushi Pua, Nature Pua, Dam Pua. And it do be Cheva Mendra Pua, do be Cheva Pua, that is Shah Chilipache. Cheva Puatella. Chushi Pua. That Chushi Pua Della. That do Kajarogo. Lama Chabala, and they tell you, Tisun Choju, Lama, the Ranger Chosun Chayo Tamjala, Tajim, Betan, Jesuit, Shindunian Bill, Chatalo, or chair. Then a day Jelada Chaba, Chigi Lacquer, that Tomba Chaba some daddy, she level the tongue, no to go at that, called Kona Tavina, Kondi Yage. Only not just Chingila, Tijela, and it's about Chingila. Jedu Karela, when a teacher Kanje, oh, they don't get she Yimba. Number Chesa Sose number. And it's Chile Buyuki, Annie Ambutuki, the Sabame, Tavachaba, Jenny, but Chigila Kurete. That was him.
So we've gone over then the section of from the Guru Puja, which explains the part of the 7-part worship where one performs homage. And then next comes the offering section of the 7-part worship. And within that, there's the offering of different forms of water. And
that Dina Chipuana de Chabatella, and it Chushipua, Dembua, and you Casore, Mandapua, and Dubichapua, and a Tenisha Kilpaja.
So here then, as far as the offerings are concerned, the offerings are connected with the 4 initiations, and that is the vase, the secret, the wisdom gnosis, and the word initiation. So the first of these is the offerings that are connected with the vase initiation, and for that there's the offering of you do the practice of the blessing of the inner offering substances, as well as the other materials that you're using for offering, and then you do that such that they have 3 special kinds of qualities.
Chili Chaba Boya della, Chipuana de Chaba, Nasawana de Chaba, Sawa Shawanda de Chaba, Tekwana Tsawanda de Chaba, the Chaba Shiche. Yeah.
Well, those 4 are then the external substances for the offering are connected to the vase initiation, and then the so the outer substances then are for the offerings that are connected to the vase initiation, and then the inner offerings are connected to the secret initiation, and then the secret offerings are connected to the wisdom gnosis initiation, and then the offering of reality itself is connected to the 4th initiation, the word initiation.
Oh, yeah. That's not Chi Puana de Chaba de la Denita, Chushipua, Nieje Bua, Den Bua, Mendra Bua, and it do be Chabach to say.
So as far as the external offerings that are offered,
what is it? Chipuana de Chabatella, Chushipua,
Chushibo, the offering of the water.
Nyeje buwa.
The offering of the
Tadi mo
upachara,
medo duba mame tre buya jara wa hotel sin nyewa chabas for nyeje.
So there's the water, and then there's thank you. Oh, thank you. So there's the offering of the four waters. Then there's the offering of the other substances that appear in the course of the list of offerings, flowers and so forth. And then offering of, there's another offering of a special kind of water, offering of the mandala, and then the offering of practice.
Oh yeah. Ane da dine. Da tambo chushi buwa de la chen buwa xiasi medo. Chen xiasi xiasi se ga an chen buwa. Xiasi xia la buwa. Xiasi xiasi la buwa. Sando ula to buwa to si da. Da tambo de la 장군 지세 남아 kwaja se ga la buyu. Ane lama to 나 가서 도안도에 창고 유예 아니 장군 지세 남아 kwaja 나도 지른게서 보아 이 세가나 다 쳐봐 나서 봐. 쳐봐라서 ပဲ나도 지른 보아이. 이네디 당보 천부야 되라. 나도 이제 그래 인생 여반내야래 다시 뒤치 출시 다지 봐. 세가 다 되나래요. 그래 이제 여반내야래 다시 뒤치 출시 다지 봐. 세가라. 그래 이제 제자들다 강도 예배네 어깨바 레바 아 주rin 뭐 첼레 주바 안에 입술 레바 어디 나도 안에 최연제라 다지 주지 출시 다지 밥 쓰리가라 다지 출시 출라 다지 했어야 돼. 봐. 다지 했어야 돼. 아니 가서래 지당 출시해야 되라. 아니 미상과 타바치베 타제 이제 타치세 니라 랑자가라 타제 타마지 나샤 타바르체 바게자라 나 타제라 자쇼고레 로 타지 뒤지 추시 타지 바 세가나 아니 추데라 춘 샤시 메도 두베 가지 춘 샤시 샤시 아니 상도 센 두심바레 야
So then the next verses here say that verse 23 and 24 say, O refuge protectors, O venerable gurus, together with your entourage, we present you with oceans of clouds of various offerings. And verse 24 then says, from expansive or vast, well-fashioned vessels, radiant and precious, flow gently forth 4 streams of purifying nectars. So there, in that second verse 24, it says properly fashioned, meaning the vessels we visualize them as though they're fashioned, manufactured in the best possible way. They're made out of precious substances such as gold, silver, jewels, etc. And they're radiant. They're radiating light. And their vessels are vast, and then from them 4 streams of purifying nectar, purifying amrita, the nectar of immortality. And here it says purifying is a word which is used commonly for water, because water is used to purify our bodies of different kinds of impurities and such. And in this particular context, the purifying nectar of immortality is the water is in fact that. And what it is purifying us of, here the defilements that are being purified are the misapprehension of things as being ordinary.
나는 도시 제가라 나서 최진자서 보아에 에세가라 아니 레레레 단에 푸나 되게 와래 장고제제 남아 kwa자라세 아니 나서 가세 나서 추진바 그래레제 여반내안에 다시 주시 차지 밥세가라 레레레 파 매네베 베나 되게 와래 다 대답지나 마 순거라 대단다 다시 뒤지 가는 출시되라 야라제된 그 추세 야라제된 그 추, 지단 야라제단 지세디 아니 야라제단 봐서 시당 심당 잠당 양 시와당 심바당 잠바당 양와당 아니 치명아와당 아니 추탕와당 아니 투나 또라 미네바당 아니 dimbalam mineba seikala yala jeten ko chutos kware.
So then when one does this offering, one can visualize it such that one is offering these streams of water, which are actually purifying nectar of immortality, to all of the individual, all of the assembly field, that is the Lord Guru together, who is the refuge protector, as well as all of the entourage assembled around him. One can do that, visualize that going to them individually or all at once. There's different ways of doing that. And then as far as where it says these 4 streams of water, which is the nectar, the purifying nectar of immortality, or amrita, is here then the water is, the term water is used in that we have to understand it as a special kind of water, which has 8 different qualities. There's the fact that it's cooling, it's free of any kind of contamination. If you drink it, it doesn't harm your throat. It causes one's mind to sort of be clarified and purified, and then there
시당 심당 잠당 양 시와 아니 심바 잠바 양와 시체 추시와
Siwa is clear. It's cooling, and it's tasty. Yeah, it tastes good. Samba, jamba. Soft. Soft.
아니 잠바 양와
Light.
아니 디나네 아니 치명아와
And it's
치명아와 치도 치미심바 마임바
It's free from anything that any kind of taste that is undesirable, that's not flavorful, not good.
아니 당와 추탕와 용만 말해봐 추탕와
Clear. It's free of any kind of turbidity, anything that would prevent it from being like clear. Yeah.
아니 투나 짐발라 미네바다 또알라 미네바체가라 야라 제된 그 추데 매니 아니 다 다제 세가라 아니 치마 추발 셔봐 아니 타마게 나시 타발 셔발라잖아 아니 다 양고 주진 아마 kho자라 나서 최전자서 보아지 아니 두스분하네 나서 최전자서 보아니 두스나 저 당유선지 부셔셔고 장고 두지 때라 오와지 전에 부이 치 왕마디 야练下 王马个多他타마타마데라 내나 지고 왔다 이제 다음에 두스 말하자 두스 말체 샤시 두체 나서 최근 벌벌에 끌려든지人家 예방에 다시 뒤지 출시 다지 밥 출시 부와라 때네 아니 투지라 대동의 시켜바지 제와 명하체 두시 명하체
So there's 4 kinds of water then, and so each of them has all of these 8 properties, that is, and the last 2 of which are that when you drink it, it doesn't harm your throat and it doesn't upset your stomach. So that finishes off the 8, I believe. And then one is visualizing that all 4 of these, when you're offering them, the 4 kinds of water. There's the water for washing feet, for washing the body, for drinking. Shibakari. What? What's the 4th? 상도.
가래 제소.
시바 네마송.
가래.
추시요 추시.
주시 최연 샤시 샤시 상도르스.
상도.
최연체. 샤 추발라 샤시체. 샤 추월 샤발라 아니 샤시체. 아니 꿀라 토라 그 슐라들라 상도르체.
So then there's water for washing the body, the feet, for drinking, and then for cleansing in general, cleaning things.
그래서
찹시.
샵시 감발라 샵시기로와 샵시 칼라 샤시기로와 샤시.
So it's like one that cleans your feet, one that cleans your mouth.
야. 다시 있어야 될 대중의 수요인 봐. 투모 다시 타마지 나시 다시 직제제. 근데 야 타마와 나마 타마 나시 다시데 유디 시간을 투모 제제. 아니 현재 그 대화 집에 미딘조 다바 쳐봐대 라면을 제 집안이 봐. 당가 대tenso. 현재 그 대회 미딘조 다바 쳐봐대라 라면을 제 다시 될라 제.
So then, as far as these waters are concerned, as mentioned, then the principal way or one way to understand them is that they're purifying us of the misapprehension of things as being ordinary, and there are ways of applying this within each of the 4 classes of tantra. But here, if we apply this particularly within the unexcelled yoga tantra class of tantra, then this purifies the ordinary appearance, which prevents us from actualizing the connate bliss.
야, 다저듯이 휴시 타지 파세 휴시 부여야 되체. 아니 동부세 뭐 청와 빼래 봐. 제외 메서 사단 반항강 다 부유 장고지지 남아 kho제라. 아니 나서 지금 야서 부여야 되라. 아니 메도게 동부당. 와 메도 시마. 아니 메도 청와 주와. 동부세와 청와 아니 메도게 아니 가서 라리라 써와. 나 된다는 거는 동부세와 청와 빼라 봐. 제외 메도 사단 반항강. 이게 메도 피해.
So then after offering those waters, then one thinks that the entirety of the earth as well as space is filled with beautiful flowers, and the flowers appear in different forms as offerings. That is, there are bouquets of flowers that in sort of clusters. There's specific flower petals that are scattered around in separated form. There are rosaries or garlands of flowers that are all set up, and then flower arrangements as well that have been set up in all of the most beautiful and fashion and extensive fashion.
아니 제 메도 사단 반항강 되게 안에 메도 부하 부하라 때네 안에 대동의 시기와 며 집어체 그러와 제 메도 사단 반항 다야 이셔서 제 메도 사단 반항가 지신배지 대바 빈도에 야정원비 주제 사람 세계 아니 녀정아이나네 메도 지신비 아니 자중국 최당 어느 다 되게 지신배지 두바 빈루에 아니 배우게 두바 야정원비 정지 사 아니 감나 배가서를 정지 사람 나시 쳐봐 두배 풀려지.
So you think then likewise that these flowers are suitable to generate the bliss, the connate bliss of emptiness and the connate bliss and emptiness. It has those flowers have that capacity. And then next one offers incense. And so it says here that one sees the path of the gods, a space which is filled with vast clouds of, this is in verse 26, it says here, the heavens billow with blue summer clouds of lazuli smoke from sweet, fragrant incense. To elaborate on that, one could say that it's like there's huge clouds of incense that fill up all of space, that are made out of the incense which has the best scent. And there are different kinds of incense that are made out of, there's one that's made out of 100 different substances. And then there's the incense which is that is made out of powders as well. So both the forms of incense that are like for burning, as well as those that are used for just scent alone without burning, are appear in clouds of lapis lazuli. It says, like lapis, that stone lapis lazuli.
Oh yeah. 지신배지 듬바 변조야 세가 현재의 치다 자중의 치라서 다 잔된다 나서 그 현재의 치다 자중 치라 예정은 비든지 사람 치세 되게 두배체체 지신배도 회의 문제 ninda 누베람바 드메서 동서 메시에서 제가 그 세가나 아니 마메당 아니 가서는 다와당 니마나 소베 나와당 아니 간제 동선지 민바 세월에 셔바당 아니 대다게 아니 드메기 에미 가서 여기 아니 차와 치바든지 아니 다시비 제당 대제당 다제라 소와가 여기 차와 치바든지 대수하더라 가서 ninda 누베람바 드메서 동선 메시에서 제가 그 세대인 말에
So then next one offers light from suns and moons, glittering jewels and scores of flaming lamps, frolicking joyfully, dispel the darkness of here it says 1,000 million billion worlds, but one can read that as a billion world systems or multiples of a billion world systems. The 3,000 is 1,000 that's cubed as to form a billion, and so there are numberless of those billion world systems. Then one thinks that like the sun and the moon, as well as jewels that are blazing, and then also conventional lamps and so forth that are made out of the most precious kinds of substance, all of those fill space and radiate light. So all of those things are radiating light, and the light from that eliminates the darkness from a billion worlds.
가부잔된 구금 취역의 가부단 잔된다 구금 나서의 아니 취역의 아니 텐자위 가서 가부잔된 구금 취역의 빼지 처지 텐자위 빼지 취 아유 코요 그냥 쳐봐.
Then one thinks likewise that there are vast seas of scented waters imbued with the fragrances of saffron, sandalwood, and camphor, and they swirl out into the entire expanse to the horizon.
Oh yeah, 대자더니 가부잔된 구금 저왜 빼지 처지고 로제 주된 사제 동화다 하다면 미세서 힘부 부르세요. 아니 오라자에 주단된 바. 아니 로자 주된 대신 미모에서다 가로 로텔라 추요하래. 가와 나와 주와 차와 렌차와서 추요해 말이. 자 두부 데려라나 아니 가위 가와 나와레레레 마치 체와지 아니 대리를 나의 충주 체외가나 아니 계속 제 연구하래. 고선.
Dates.
로. 가와 나와 주와 차와 렌차와 주체. 대리를 나야 아니 가위 가와 나와 주와 차와 렌차와 차와 저 주체. 그봐 대리라 충주 체외가나 아니 자 연구하래.
So then it says that with the delicacies of gods and men, drink and savories and feasts, with ingredients of 100 flavors, amass up to the height of Mount Meru. To translate that slightly differently, that there's whatever is to be eaten, that is food or drunk, which is the food or that which is enjoyed as food for gods and humans, is amassed up to the extent of Mount Meru, and it possesses 100 tastes. So what is meant by 100 tastes here is that there are 6 basic flavors that things possess. There's like sweet, sour, and astringent, pungent, salty, sweet, bitter, and bitter also. No? Yeah, bitter. Yeah. So there's 6 of them, and if you take each of them, and then you each of the primary tastes, and you flavors, and then you can combine it with each of the others, so as to form a set of 6. And then each of those in turn can be combined in such a way as to form a set of multiples that amounts to 100 sort of subsidiary flavors. And so if you take the very essence out of all of those 100 different varieties of flavor, then the food and drink that is being presented here, it has that kind of savor to it.
Oh yeah, then 다 로자 주된 사자 동화당 사자당 안에도 다 동일이 아니 로자 주된 사자 동화다 사담미 사담미 샤샤 힘보 아니 힘보다 보와 토와 사담미 세는 보고 네 가서 로자 주된 사람이 있으면 이거 가지고 사담미 세서면 나도 로미 찾아 태야당 아니 로모 동화당 아와 영어 로미 찾아 태야당 시가 나신 전에 아니 로미다 아니 양푸야지.
So then also you think that the 3 worlds, that's heaven, the underworld, the earth, surface, as well as the heavens above, are filled with beautiful sound which arises from limitless different varieties of musical instruments. So there are drums and horns, guitars, or stringed instruments of all various different varieties, and all of these different forms of instruments are producing, and they're all beautiful themselves, made out of all kinds of beautiful things, and so that they're producing beautiful music which fills up the entirety of the world.
어디 로모토와당 아니 뒤바당 동화나서와 기타 되는기 예배 자연 부여체 대포와라 때네 아니 담보다 아니 리시 되는 간여제 태단테 폐와라 때네 아니 내가 왕시고지 좋아때 왔지 왕시고지 좋아 뒤한지 쳐와라 때네 이시소지 이시고지 좋아때 왔겠니 아니 내가 동방에 위도 이시 예매 시켜 메와체 두심발.
So this is these offerings are they're different kinds of instruments again, like such as bells and drums and horns and so forth, and they're producing that sound. And then all of this is being done again so as to generate your thinking and imagining that these offerings that you're giving that you're providing that you've created through this process of imaginary creation are being offered such that they will produce the conate bliss of the gnosis of conate bliss and emptiness within the field of assembly that you've produced through that visualization initially, and then through inviting the gnosis beings to enter into it and to remain within it. You've created that visualization, and so these offerings that you're now producing are intended so as to you're imagining and thinking that they are producing that special gnosis of emptiness and bliss within the beings that you've invited and that are before you.
어제 단더니 치 대응하다 비안 림불아서와 아니 치 대응하다 다 나기 대응하다 친한 대응람이 초고 차우세게 나기 대응하라 아니 차자기 수제와 단념바 아니 류지 치신바 아니 르지자 잠바 아니 가서 로녀와 어두스 마저리 자다 자서데 사운드바들 당 대조도 저래나 측제요와를 다 띵고서 측제 맞아 시험 먹어지 봐 나기 대응하잖아 나기 녀시다
나기 녀치
차자 그 수제와당
저기
잔념바다 아니 가서래 치신바 류지 치신바당 아니 르자녀와당 다두스 마셔 그거는
So here it says that in the verse that then one also imagines and visualizes that the entirety of all of the directions are covered with goddesses who are holding the offering, various offering of the things which create pleasure for the senses, and both inner and outer offerings which create pleasure for the senses. And so these are both in terms of the outer as well as the inner substances that do that. And so they're possessing these goddesses are holding the splendor of excellent forms of visible forms, sounds, scents, tastes, as well as things that produce tactile pleasure as well. And so these exist in both sort of an external form as well as an internal form.
Oh yeah, that jewa chesona dejo lama chobatang ani sawan dubagi ani ta dunje chinri to na shi chene ta pyare ta dinzo su lengen ina dunje ko pa chene su len she tin na gar punati gore.
Then if one is doing this extensively, this practice, and one is doing it, practicing it in accordance with the Goya Samaja or the Chakrasamvara, then in those texts, the texts that are concerned with us, then you bring into this context the way of doing these offerings of the inner and outer substances that produce pleasure to the senses into this context here.
Oh yeah, 신난 대라미 초근 차오 세대기 난 이제 부와 대응아 부와 제가 다 되니 뒤제라 맨라 부야 되라 다 맨라 개와 남중 아주 부야 나나 부야 되게 부 맨나 저와 자전이 실은 보제 이제 된다니 왜 이제 뭔가 제 이제 필수서 라면 어제 되게 되죠 당연히 이제 부리 시작하고 투지 되라 우와 지실 가라 아니 다 맨다 충분히 수마 충분히 양아와 순부서도 마찬가지로 순부 예수마 제가라 아니 리시 린전 제체 그봐 리시 린전 제체 리시 린전 제체 중니체 디가라서 아니 디 리자고르라체 디가 자신한테 뜻대로 품바제가 가나 아니 대체 품바제가 가니 쉬운 거 아닌 말이야 뭐 가서 대제라 이시자지 뒤가는 이만 나와 이제가 간 예수 팀인 말이야.
So then after that, then one inserts the mandala offering, and one can do this in the extensive fashion, the way we typically normally do it, with the full recitation, or one can do it in the abbreviated fashion. There are different ways of enumerating the elements of the mandala offering. One can enumerate them as 21 or 23, 27, different forms of enumeration. But here in the text, verse 32 says, O refuge protectors, treasures of compassion, imminent and supreme field of merit, we present with pure faith Mount Meru and the 4 continents 1 billion times over, the 7 precious royal emblems, the precious minor symbols and more, perfectly delightful environments and those dwelling within, and a grand treasury of all wishes and wealth of gods and men. Here when we take the four primary continents of the cosmology here, the layout of the world, then you think there's the primary continents, there's the subsidiary continents that flank them. So there's four primary continents and 8 subsidiary continents. So those together make 12, and then together with Mount Meru in the center, that makes 13. And then there's the 7 precious things, and then the other precious, subsidiary precious things, set of 14. So that all together, how many does that make? 27. Okay, yeah, 27. So those 23. 23. If you don't, I think. Nisuma sana di kasa so it's okay if you do it with the 27, and then there's another way to do it with the 23. With 23. 30. There's a way of doing it with 37. 23. So there's a way you do it. There's a way of doing it where you, when you're doing the mandala on a plate, then you use 23 little heaps of the rice and other precious things that you have in your collection there, and you make it out like that.
Oh yeah, that's what you someone they about put in it. And it part to was and it's a book, ten men, and it was a many. And Chawaraja, Shin Chawaraja, that and I see Chawaraja in Limbo the Java, and it Mendakus to a man at Puet. That is Jella, Anita, Luichaba Puetri. Luichaba Puetella, Anita Casore. The Moshamid to say the chocolate, Dinala and Puet, Luichaba Puet, and Java de Sonaina, Anita that Namda Timji treated Chibius. Namda Timji treated Chibiu, Jashin Mother Zawala, Trimiri Biaga Bumda Jesse Canada, or Shingi Dombola Pepa Gwenny, or Tosita, Lamsum says to Sanga Chassi, or the Lucy Puya, that you say, you show. 이샤죠. 대권한 것이 무엇이 이루 이신 자성어 무엇이 이루 이신 자성어 시신남과 레원 최세지 시바코와당 시원양을 대화래 중외 아니 최세지 이와 무엇이 샴바다 이제 주와당 무엇이 이루 이신 자성어 시신남과 레원 최세지 아니다 다돈 자와 군지 이로칭 신 다돈 자와 군지 이된지 아니 지단 레제 와서다 뭐라지도 원셔미도 이신 자주고 시신 안관래 최제지 다돈 자와 군지 지단来的 라신지 고스문 개외 매도 지양자 군상 취비 추승 봄조신 라소미르 니 랑에 대대비 가자주지 라마 이지 보세다 데레 이 두비치바 부거래 랑게 가르레사나 릴라 예바기 아니 연된 대다 아니 바 신기 동복기 메도다 랑게가다 대우다 소비 수수 피해되라 그러와 어디 순간 다시 등에 아마도 시가 남다 팀지 취들이 쳐보세 수림지 취들라 배라 야소라 배샤 남다 취치면 야제 신료 만데 자와래 세가 슈르 만도 태와되게 안에 신동그 자와라 배샤 자신 신동그 자와라 배샤 재미를 위한 태와 자와라 때에 주마메비 리바기 안에 태우 된달라 파게 삼중그 시라지 해줘라다 대이나 재미를 비야게 봄자제 야가 봄자제 다 대된 배전을 요 말이 뭐乱来个没到他就고라라 하려고 뭐좀 이루 이제서 뭐 다시 나한테 나셔
So then the next verse says, to please you, O venerable gurus, we offer these objects, both actually arrayed and those envisioned, as a pleasure grove on the shore of a wish-granting sea. It is strewn with thousand-petal lotuses, etc. And so here then, when one visualizes the pleasure grove and one thinks especially of the trees within it, the wish-granting sea is like the analogy or what that is representing then is the practice of ethical conduct or ethical discipline. That serves as sort of the ocean from which all of the good qualities arise. And then the tree, the trunk of the tree is represents the practice of hearing the teachings, listening to the teachings, and then from that hearing of the teachings, then out of that arises the various branches, which represent then the analysis of the teachings that one has heard through using the wisdom that is able to investigate and analyze the meaning of the teachings.
That's right. Oh yeah, when some you do, you think just on sitting on the on church, don't Java could you rochi, Jidan like that, Rashanji, Jidan the Rashanji, wasn't good, Meso Jiang. I see Gala, wasn't good, Meso Jiang, Kunsan Chippy to some bosom, Kunsan Chippy to some Pumdroshin, Rashanji, and to some the Savi Gazata. Gazata, Kunsan Chippy to some Pumdroshin. 아니 랍소르미 랑안 대대배 세가라 아니 도전에 셔봐잖아 아니 나왔습니다 안에 셔봐잖아 아니 기름다 저름라 써와기 아니 림바니라 써와기 어디니 대우단 담바 와 랍소르미 랑안 대대배 랍소르미 랑아 소람 저라 토나 권람을 써와자 야기 저런 그 림방아라 써와자 랍소르미 랑안 대대배 안 텐다베 가서 차대 안주기 아니 연단다다 차기 수수 꺼내 아니 보여달라 가서 지진나마 얘기 보세
So then the rest of this verse goes, there's this beautiful tree which is vast and has multiple petals and so forth. And it's decorated with, completely covered with flowers, which are the virtues that arise from the three doors. That's the body, speech, and mind. And these have arisen not only for oneself, but for others as well. And these represent also the virtue that both oneself and others have created, not only, they produce not only worldly happiness, but also the happiness which transcends the world, the transcendental happiness. And then there's it gives forth likewise a beautiful scent, which functions as the sort of offering of Samantabhadra, the best kind of offerings. And this is a pleasure grove which it possesses within it and represents actually the training that one undergoes in the course of developing the path. That is, for the common path, one practices the three trainings: the training in ethical discipline, training in meditative stabilization, meditative concentration, and then the higher training in wisdom. And or if one's, and that applies generally, but if one's speaking specifically in terms of the tantric path, there's the practices that one does on the generation stage as well as the completion stage, and the practices and the results of virtue that arises from those practices. And then likewise, one can apply then it says the five paths, the results of the five paths, which here refers to the path of accumulation, path of preparation, path of seeing, and the path of cultivation, as well as the path of no more learning. Each of those can be applied to either the common path that's indicated by the 3 trainings, or the uncommon path of mantra, which is indicated by the 2 stages of tantric practice. So that pleasure grove, which is symbolized by all of those trees and so forth on the banks of the ocean, is the pleasure grove itself represents then one's own the merit and such that has been developed, and realizations that have been developed by both oneself and all others through the practice of all of these practices. And then one offers that in order to delight the reverend guru.
That's all. Oh yeah. 我想咪就一心加速我写的，加速听，安尼加速全部满眼吧，安尼零说说去拍的去，安尼加速心就冲啊，安尼就加速冲啊，安尼这些移动我听得起啦，安尼快快加速听，安尼我写话的，安尼提加速这个扩散，安尼加速洗的啦，安尼加速洗了，加速洗，安尼加速转。
So it says on the banks of the ocean here, we shouldn't imagine that it's like the widest ocean that exists within the world. In the cosmology here, there are different sort of rings of oceans that surround the central world system, or the central world mountain of Mount Meru. And here we think of it more in terms of the inner ocean that surrounds Mount Meru, and the continents that surround Mount Meru. And so on the banks of that smaller ocean, then the pleasure garden is situated on the bank there.
Oh, then, and you can't so that didn't say that. Oh, so you just sitting on the don't have to dance. Was lots of me long and dead and be Gaza Jizilama, yes, boo, said. Then it is Jella, and it gets chopper down, and a nango chopper piatella. Only Roger Pazin Jachi Tumatan, Jajumatan, Dramangala, so Janto Bayan busy Jachi Chur, say Gala, and it Jachi chopper down, and it a castle and nango chopper in your woody, that do see young to pure in body. 가서 표지 라주나 남라서 다 라주나라 안에 차라데 차데 안에 가서래 수보라 쳐바당 근데 제바요 와다 아니 소집반에 어디 샤이 나바자바고 로주요 와래 대인다 야지 쳐바체 대제라 아니 장도 봐서 제바게 난거 쳐바 안에 두시 창담 야자라 체네 아니 나저 나시 마 주니 담보사 상와다 장와다 제바다 친지 나와 제니 어디니 장도 봐서 제바게 단데 뒤진 거 친지 나와데 난거 쳐바데 아니 가서 자치 쳐바다 로자 빠진 자치 동아 로자에 빠진 자치 동아다 자중하다 드라마하다 소세 가라 모두 니도 고바 쳐바나 자주다 모두 싸워 쳐바나 드라마 쳐바 이상 아니 된다 아니 다 난거 쳐바 부활할 때나 대동거 시 쳐바 매
Then next comes the offering of tea, as well as the offering of the inner substances. This is expressed in verse 34, where it says that we offer this beautiful, as a drink, tea which possesses the splendor of 100 special tastes, has a special excellent scent. So then so we think that it also has a color that's similar to saffron, the tea, and then that is the offering of drink. This tea is also sometimes used as within the inner offering practice. The sort of, if you boil it down into a kind of syrup, then this tea can be used as within the inner offering practice as well. One also uses alcohol in that context sometimes. It functions that way. And then the next part of the verse says, we offer the also the 5 hooks, the 5 lamps, etc. We offer this as a ocean of the nectar of immortality, which has been purified, understood, and blazes. So here the 5 hooks represents the
자중하다 저망아 우주 니두고바 셔바나 자중하다 우주 싸워 셔바나 저망아 장장하다 이지강하잖아
So then the hooks here are the 5 meats, and then the lamps are the 5 nectars or nectars that appear that are used within the inner offering practice. And so those represent then are indicated there. Hooks indicate so that one can like quickly be able to achieve the achievements that one is wishing for through the practice of mantra here. And then the lamps indicate so that one will achieve those achievements will blaze in that effectively blaze. So that's why they're given those special names here. And then those are purified, they're understood, their nature is understood, and they're considered to blaze. 장도바와
장도바와데 주마장와다 아니 뒤중어 또바다 농의 멤버를 쓰도록.
So this is similar to the way when one doing the inner offering practice, when you say that the wind is
바라와서 빼와라 조고래 빼와라 저거라 아니 가서래 홍격하도 전해지 전장 홍격하도 홍대 홍대야 단절하죠 홍격하도 전해지 전장 가도 치료그 니버그 전장 에드지 또바체 아데 팀바다 때냐 에드지 또바체 옴지 아니 치점 론제자 세바메바 아니 빼와 인상 바르스 장도 바르스.
So when it says there that they're purified, they're understood, and they blaze, that's in the inner offering practice. Then, when one causes the hung, ah, and to descend into the offering substances, then the hung enables one, purifies all of the substances of any kind of defects, any kind of stains that they may have, and then the enables one to understand that they are in fact this nectar of immortality, and then the functions so as to have that increase without any kind of limit.
나디 이게 somla 예세를 마신도 최가 구도제 송도제 투도제 바 도가 이게 somla 구도 송도 마짠찬네 아니 오마하 구숨도지 도제스미 사서 연단데다 짠찬네 홍스미나 마팀니 아니 홍게카도 홍데 마 팀바다 때네 홍게카도 전해지 짠장에 에드지 또바체가 엄저뭐 바시베 다 두디찬 테러와 현아지 치를 세상 거 되나라.
So this is briefly covering what is going on in that there's other more extensive explanations of this, but basically then one is in the inner offering is as we typically do it, visualizing the Oma Hung above the skull bowl that's filled with the 5 meats and the 5 nectars, the hooks and the lamps, and therefore when Hong descends into it, then it purifies it of all of the various defects, the stains and so forth. Then the purifies, enables one to understand it as nectar, and the Om causes it to expand and increase, to blaze more extensively and to expand in that way.
Oh yeah, when I get some rimji teba and teba soon as you were hungry, that you should have this. That in it is a Rajapachi Jajituma, the Jajunga, the Dramanga, so Jando by DJ Jaji Segala, and a cheap one that do with Chaba said, Nasawan that do with Chaba said, but Nasawan that do with Chaba said.
So those outer offerings then that were described previously pertain to the vase initiation, and then the inner offerings here that were just mentioned pertain then to the secret initiation.
Oh yeah, 신경아제 현재 본이소 제도 주미 찾아 남자 부 세야데 아니 사와 시와다 저기 쳐봐 아니 르마 아니 랑조 요 이동의 랑조 담바 랑조 탈라바바 대비는 버겨와 대화 집이 냠제 소나 시절에 아니 오세 가라 요 랑조 빠진 아니 대비 아니 기사出去 시라 켜와 요 랑조 빠진 出去 시 대비 기사 나게 아니 르차마 아니 대라 찾아 대라 아니 신경아제 현재 숨 예배나네 아니 신경아제 현재 숨보다 자다 마보 요아래 단다 딜라자 아니 간데 자나 그래서 디자나 저거 있다 엠바숨 엠바숨라 내와 대라 엠바숨 세 대라 조름 리 마에 세메라 내와 대라 조름 집보라 자주 가나 조름 아예 세메라 내와 대라 아니 다 가수래 신체지 칸로 마스 와 신체지 칸로 마스 지름라 내와텔라 나제체 의사라 내와텔라 신체지 칸로 마
So then next one offers beautiful as
신체 나제 현재 포냐소 포냐세와니 아니 찾아라 고고하래 와 포냐라 때네 랑고 대바 니도 주바 쳐바니 제가 나신 전에 찾아라 때네 되던 주바 쳐바이자 대진게 어디 인자 디스고인제.
So then next it says that one offers mudras, which are magical illusory mudras, which are beautiful and attractive. I offer those as well. This offering is connected again with the secret, wisdom gnosis. So the wisdom gnosis initiation. The wisdom gnosis initiation. And it says there then that they're beautiful, they're youthful, they possess 64 special attributes. They're splendid, and they're slender and skilled in the special techniques of the 64 erotic arts. And they're described here as being born from field-born, mantra-born, or conate, born together with, conate means born together with, and they're a mass of messengers. Messenger here is a special term that's applied to these mudras because they're like just as a messenger is able to bring you news which enables you to achieve whatever you desire. Then that special name is given here to the mudra. And so as far as the field-born mudra is concerned, that pertains to those who have Luin. So the field-born mudra here is the one that relates to one that has achieved the body isolation stage of the various stages of the completion stage, completion process of that aspect of yoga. All three. Sum. Okay, so I'm sorry. I guess it's I didn't catch that, but it refers to all three of those isolations. There's the isolation of the body, isolation of speech, isolation of mind, as three of the 5 stages that are found on the completion stage practice, as it's explained in the Guhya Samaja. So the field-born mudra is that. Then the mantra-born mudra is Shinge Ngake Kirim Ale. So that's right. So the mantra-born mudra is that which is born from the connected to the generation stage practice of Vajrayana, and then the connate or born together with messenger Lenke Ponyasana. Lenke Ponyasana. So then the connate messenger here, that mudra, is the one that is born from the luminosity. And here, if we can understand that in terms of the actual luminosity within of the 2 forms of luminosity.
찾아텔라 란다 체데 아니 얘게 부사데 아니 도지창게 윤도지 인주마요 인주마를 말람파 팀네 아니 도지창게 윤주마라 페트 대단히 한번 줘와라 되네 현지지 대와 아니 개발 매니 아니 초신 탐제 투지 직바 연장 아니 도시창의 투지를 현재의 대화 전부께와 나시 초신 탐작의 규라 아니 현재의 대화 전부께와 그 마치 아닌 말에 찾아 부서대 아니 여기 도시창의 부인이 도시창의 도시 인지 안주 맡아라 많이 틈만 그래.
So then when we're doing the visualization here, we think that all of those mudras that we've visualized and that exist surrounding us in the visualization, then we think that we are offering them to the assembly field. And in particular, we think that in the visualization, we see them surrounding us, and then from their bodies, a simulacrum, that is a form of them which is exactly like their actual bodies, separates off, and it goes up and it absorbs into Vajradhatvishvari, who's the consort of Vajradhara in the center of the assembly field. And so we think then that through that absorbing into Vajradhatvishvari, that then that generates the it generates the connate gnosis, it causes it to increase within Vajradhara. And since Vajradhara and all of the rest of the beings in the assembly field are of the same mental continuum, then it generates great bliss throughout the entirety of the assembly field. So that's how the visualization is done, and that we think that we're offering these mudras to then the assembly field, and in the manner in which that is done is by them, the likenesses of them going into the Vajradhatvishvari, who's the consort of Vajradhara in the center of the assembly field, that the absorbing into her, then through the conjunction of Vajradhara and Vajradhatvishvari, then that produces konate bliss within Vajradhara as well, and that in turn diffuses through, is coextensive then with the rest of the assembly field, because of the all of the beings in the assembly field being of the same mental continuum.
Oh yeah, that 되게 가서래. 지부의 침바체. 시풍만나 되나 사와나 되고 쳐봐 사와 샤와나 되고 쳐봐 세대 친사와체. 신한에 어디 다 뒤에 와라 가르소래다. 주자현재 대위 예시체. 추근 하신 죄단 죄위인. 예매는 좀 마삼 줘야 돼. 된다 자주 섬져 쳐라부 세대게 안에 대권은 처한다 되고 쳐봐지 말해.
So then next comes the offering of reality, and this is connected again to the fourth initiation. It's called the word initiation, the name that's given to it, and that's expressed in verse 36, where it says that we offer the ultimate bodhicitta, the supreme ultimate bodhicitta to you. And this given various qualities. That is, it's free from obscuration. It's conate. It's the great gnosis of conate bliss. It's the sphere which is separate from all of the elaboration. It's the nature of all phenomena, and the sphere which is separated from all elaboration, conceptual elaboration, and it's indivisible. It's effortlessly produced or spontaneous. It's inconceivable and beyond expression.
제주지면 찾아면 주장현지 대위 이시체세가라 주장현지세 아니 담바 요와 담바 너당 요와 주지 대위기 아니 최 탐제 아니 라신지 동바디 차와 대다 군지 라신 놈 되루 아니 가는 내지고 최 탐제기 되루 아니 가서 다자게 타 탐제단 차위 아니 요 동바니 차당 아니 요즘 이시니 예미제비 아니 현지기 대화 준비 이시대 있잖아 대동 순주라 조고 말해 대동 순주 와 대답에 대동 순주 아니 투지를 개발 매바데 아니 대관안에 세원단 드레위 아니 쳐봐 여기서 책테는 책 타마되기 가서 돼 주장현지 대위 이시체 주그 라신 때단 주자 세가라 주장현지 대위 이시체 세가라 다단다 가소래 담바 요와당 담바 너당 아니 요와 주지 섬전 탐제라 아니 바 참회 라신 동반이 저와 라신 동반이 태당 아니 예매도 예매 봐서 텐더의 동반이 태당 아니 대도비 현지의 대화 준비 이시대 오예매봐 오예매도 잡아 주장현지 대위 텐더의 주장현지에서 과를 대두지 대화 준비 이시라머니 가서래 라신이 드바당 아니 루버지 드바니가단 잡에 드바 현지 대위 이시체에서 이시대 현지의 대화 준비 이시대 다 무슨 파자와이나 아니 최근 라신 쩌단 자유 치리를 가나 담바 요와 담 니지 대비 최담제 라시지 동바 동비 아니 동바 니당 동바 무슨도 또 이시대당 오예매 마치바 주장현지 대위 이시지 최근 라신 쩌단 자유 치 예매 현주 마삼 절레데 이미 텐더벳 대전 대동에서 maybe 이시되게 유동반이 자주 치다리 제가나 아니 대제바 미니바당 제주 나시 안에 선 미니바이다 어때니 마삼 절에대 된다 자주 섬저 체라 부세대 대단한 대도선 슈퍼바를 주고 있지.
So then here, what one is offering is the integration of emptiness and bliss, those two integrated together. And that's what is described then in the verse as a whole, where it says that it's devoid of obscuration, separate from obscuration. So it's completely free from all forms of obscuration. And then it's connate, it's born together, meaning that the bliss and emptiness at the stage of completion or perfection, where at the resultant stage, then those two are born together with each other and inseparably. There's no, one does not exist without the other, so they're connate, born together. And then it's the gnosis of great bliss. This is referring then to basically that all phenomena, when it's talking about the environment, here it's the environment is given the name of that which is stable, and then that which moves within the environment is the beings that migrate about throughout the environment. Those two things. The entirety of them is completely pervaded by this basic nature, which is their absence of intrinsic existence. And so because at the resultant stage, a Buddha, someone who's actualized this integration, their gnosis that understands the emptiness of all things is coextensive with great bliss. And so therefore, in that way, we can say that great bliss and emptiness pervade the entirety of the universe, all of the environment and the inhabitants of the universe. So, and then it says here likewise that all phenomena are naturally free from elaboration, conceptual elaboration. Here again this is, if you take this in reference to the resultant stage, that gnosis is completely separated from all conceptual elaboration, so that when it knows all phenomena, it does so in a way which is devoid of the conceptual elaborations, conceptual elaboration. And so it's this sphere which is separated from all of that conceptual elaboration. And then it's the two bliss and gnosis, bliss and emptiness are indistinguishable, again, on the resultant stage, where the two are fused without any kind of different, you can't separate them out or the way in which they exist in that fusion is such that it's inconceivable and beyond expression. What that means is that with thought, one cannot comprehend this reality, and likewise it's beyond verbal expression. There's no way by talking about it in words that one can actually generate the experience of it as it is experienced by a being that has that state of integration. So, and then it's also spontaneous as well. Yemi Hundup.
루자란지 대비 이시지 최근라시 저단 대외 예매 현주 마삼 절에서 현주도 봤을 때도 있으면 비시지 권한을 현주도 봤을 거래. 된다왜 대도 있으면 비시지 유자수대 안에 지다 동반인 자수대 데레레레서니 아니 레사도 매바다 저도 매바인장 아니 예매 현주 마삼 절에대
So that spontaneous or effortless, non-dual emptiness and great bliss, again, the way in which it actually exists, that is on the state of the resultant state or the state of integration of the two, is such that it's not something that one can express or think, can comprehend it through thought. And so it says here, I offer that supreme, ultimate bodhicitta to you.
Oh yeah, 죄송. 다 되게 아니 왕시와 가서 그래. 치wan다 제와기 아니 뭐 보여지 치포 나사와 사와시와 아니 태권은 이제 치wan다这个치고 보여 도 치잖아요. 다 뒤제라 맨다 다니 전도 보와 된 말에 아니 맨다 다니 부 전도 보와 되나 니모 시제 자시 내 준비 삼비 맨지 셰치라 나조탕 니모 바 시자시 그지 아니 내 준비 셔바게 아니 삼비 맨지 셰라당 아니 셰라 나조탕 세가라 맨 표와체 아니 랑그 르장 아니 전도 보와 되나 아니 천년 제전 다된 보는 나가 치수 봐도 손도 써 세가라 아니 리천도 보아대.
So then next comes offerings of medicine, and it says here that I offer all of the various forms, various different types of medicine, excellent medicine, which is able to eliminate, to destroy the different kinds of all of the different forms of sickness. Here, particularly having to do with the 400 the 400 forms of mental affliction. I offer those. And then also, in order to please you, if I offer myself to you as your servant, please hold me for as long as space exists as your servant.
No. Just.
방스나 방수소 그사 진 불라나
라니 텐도 부와. 라니 텐도 부와. 라니 텐도 부와.
So this offering of yourself as a servant to the Guru, and you're begging the Guru to hold you as their servant for as long as space exists.
야단 대산나라 다기 리퀴덴도 오와지. 투와체나 다니 예수 용서나 그와 체지 다소 방수 치와지. 다니 체지 용서 지원에 쓰나미지 섬제 펜바지 온지딜레야 나데 디바샤야 렌제 미지도 오잖니다 테나시잖니 다 텐드 분이 와 제주로서만 하시.
So this is just as it's explained in the introduction of the Bodhisattva's Way of Life. There are verses there that express the same ideas of offering oneself as a servant, so as to function, to purify oneself of all of the negative actions that one has done in the past, and to
그래서 다 텐도 바라니 텐도 분이 아니 텐도 분이 아니 좀내 라메 같이 다른 나와 셴도 아니란 거 치와 마도 아니 고소 메게 왜달라 미쳐 봐. 단단히 진주기 치들 라인 봐.
So basically, the words of the introduction to the Bodhisattva's Way of Life are saying that you're offering yourself as a servant in this sense to the Buddhas in that context, and you're doing that so in the sense that now that you've come under you become under their service, that you will now henceforth not engage in any kind of misbehavior, and particularly by engaging in the non-virtuous actions of body, speech, and mind.
당니 최지 용수소나 신나 미지 섬제 방바지 류천도 푸네 아니 다기 신나 미지 섬제 방바지 세가連日 가서 코를 깨워 렘발라 섬제 그도 코를 깨워 렘발라야 집안 매봐 아니 섬제라 방바지 와 아니 랑그 류지고네 아니 가서래 디바 류지 디바당 예모비니와 미제바테나 신나 미지 심제 편바지 언지 딜에 양다다 아르디바샤와 제바 대다라야 아니 샤베 타바샤바당 치제 디바 미제바당 디바신 이제 미지도 오다 된데 전다 강에서나 랑글리 라마라 푸네 라미 아니 가신 주바마도 텔라라바 그 샤와 미제바 리텐도 보바.
So when you're offering yourself as a servant here, the essential meaning of it is identical, or like what one finds in the Bodhicharya Avatara, the introduction of the Bodhisattva's way of life, where it says that in that text that when you offer yourself to the Buddhas and by going for refuge and such, you're basically promising that henceforth you'll act under their guidance and you will no longer engage in all of the negative kinds of behavior that you've done in the past. So that you will abstain from doing things with your body, with your speech, with your mind that you've done in the past that were negative, and then so you think that and you by confessing those before your master here, then that itself is a kind of way of purifying yourself from having to experience the results of that. And then likewise, in the context of the Mahayana practice, one is thinking that one's offered oneself by becoming a bodhisattva and developing bodhicitta. One is sort of made a promise to act as a servant to all sentient beings and to attempt to achieve whatever they need and therefore develop yourself so as to be able to provide them with what they require. And that's has the same basic intent as what we find in this verse in the Guru Puja, where one is offering oneself as a servant for the Guru in this case. So you're essentially promising and requesting the guidance that would enable you to avoid engaging in the misbehavior that you've done in the past and be able especially to carry out all of the instructions as to how to practice and to develop yourself henceforth in the future. So it says, please hold me as your servant for as long as space endures.
Oh yeah, that thing they that's caused a chopper yala the same much. Chasa was the chopper yala the chinsani. That didn't yala dungan and a shabe yala dimber. That shabe yala the casa yaga. 아니 제따라 시사를 대라마 초바코나스나 아니 토미티네 메게 디빌레 기단지다 이란 지제바 투지체대 장을 죄섬지 샤제 샤신한제 미지 돈반네 세가라 아니 다 강한 샤발 차바기 디바기 오어야 되라 토마 뒤 토마 매바냐 다디 파도 싸바기 아니 디바 아니 단남 남이 마지바 예기 아니 디바상 토미티네 미기 디빌레 어느 한게 지와당 전지 디바 지와래 제소 이란 채와라 소와기 디바 샤지 디바 오에서 토미티네 미기 디빌레 지단 제사 제소 이란 와세 아니 토미티네 샤 아니 가서 토미티네 미기 디빌레 지단 제사 이란 지체와세 이란 지체와세 샤유 투지 체된 장안 제소지 간라 샤비유 안에 갑자기 안에 소신이 나타나지 그 장아라 투지 체된 장안 제섬지 간라 샤비 유대된 장안 제섬지 세가라 안에 다 년부터 신나네 안에 말자지 네가 제와 대다라 두콘도送왔다 와그 제바데 남아 수집에 답대 장안 제섬지 샤실련제 미지 돈반네 세대기 아니 가르레서나 친제 아니 쏘라파자 미샴 미셰냐 바기 아니 사와네 쳐바지 쳐고 냐와데 냐와를 라토베 답지가라 가서 샤실련제 미지 돈반네 다지마 안도바주다 돈민 지다 이란 제서마 아니 수지 최대 장아 죄심지 샤신 렌제 미지 돈반니사 다데 응어서 남바 순지베 도당 녀라 라토베 도데 응어서 다네 아니 땡지 또 잠도 섬제 쳐봤대 땡지 광도清查인다 다 땡지 좀 땡지 좀또 잠도 섬제 쳐봐 아니 가서 우리 일본군도 집에 또라 아니 그봐 강 쳐봐 아니 일본군도 저거는 돈이 관바다 진짜 아니 산재지 차연 줘봐 강제 그봐 강 쳐봐 또想把他们또 제가 참여된도 그와 강체바 일본군도 집에 또 주고 와래
Then after the offering practice comes the practice of confession, as we've described it previously, and then here it appears as part of the seven-part worship practice. And it says here, from without beginning up until now, all of the non-virtuous actions that I've performed, the wicked and or non-virtuous negative kinds of actions that I performed, as well as those that I've induced others to perform, as well as any kind of admiration that I've had for negative action, which I've created or which other beings have created. All of these are different ways of creating negative karma, non-virtuous negative sorts of karma, either doing it yourself, inducing other people to doing it, other beings to do it, or admiring and thinking, admiring either yourself doing it or others doing it. Then you say, with a mind with regret, in front of the most compassionate one, the one who possesses compassion. Here, that's referring in particular now in this context to the entire field of assembly, because you're maintaining that visualization throughout the course of this entire practice. So the field of assembly is what is here what is referred to by the greatly compassionate ones. And so then I confess these negative actions that I performed, and here confession or revealing them, basically exposing them to the field of assembly, and say, and then henceforth, and I also take now the vow or restraint, such that I will not do these things in the future again. So in that case, here this encompasses all four aspects of the confession practice, which again is, as mentioned before, is a principal way for purifying oneself of negative actions. The attitude of regret that one has is the force of eradication, and then the revelation of 숨중에 톱시
넘버 3집부터 나제 정 아니 그 디바체와라 두 콘도 상하다면 저한테 넘버 3집부터 오체 사실 난제 미지 dom반네 제 진짜 아니 배 소라바자 미샤움 타쳐바지 치고 냥바데 녀와라 라토도 톱체 사실 난제 미지 dom반네.
So the attitude of regret then is the force of eradication. And then when you say, I won't, I confess these and I won't do it again, that's the force that is of turning away from the mistake or the misdeed that one has done. And then having gone for refuge and developed bodhicitta, that is the utilization of the antidote within the four powers, and then the force of the basis, literally is the way it gets translated. The force of the basis here has to do with understanding that yourself as agent, the action, negative action that you performed, the object of those negative actions, the beings that you've done harm to, or whatever bad thing that you've done. And then that applies in all three cases, doing it yourself, inducing others to do it, or delighting, rejoicing in somebody else or yourself doing some bad thing, that all of those things are empty of any kind of intrinsic existence. So seeing the emptiness of yourself as agent, the action and the object of the action and so forth. Seeing that emptiness is here one aspect of the way of doing that. I'm sorry, that's the antidote. That's the antidote. Yeah, that's the antidote. Antidote, the force of the antidote. And dingitop the stokching rube. Dingitop. I'm sorry, the base, I got them all mixed up. The dingitop, the force which is the basis is the going for refuge and developing bodhicitta. And then the force which is the antidote, employment of the antidote is seeing the emptiness of the actions that you performed and induced others to perform.
그래서 되게 토미티는 미게티벨라 지단지사 이런 지체 투지체의 장을 주스미지 사실len제 미지 domba 세디 domba 어때 그게 아니 다시 샤바냐부터 없이 창소나 아니 샤바 맞아봐자네 매바 참여이나야 타봐 간신원자 밤에 주와라 친에 바다한테 봐 주대나 가오송제 통된 되지신 전에 송하나시 전에 아니 봐서네 수제 바지대라는 거 파사바당 안 손에 대지 미국자 구조구사바다 준좀마 배려전에 송하래 간신원자 밤에 주와라 친에 바다한테 봐 주대나 가오송제 통된 되지신 세가라 님부터 없이 권에 아니 샤나 맞아봐자네 매봐 어느 상황도 자주 가서야 심장 참여 라서비 대바 첨부 쳐봐야 도시 태바들라네 태바촌들라 두 심장 참여바지 사위라 도시 사와이다냐 아니가 상황 도시 대비람래 때나 아니 상황 지와래 이전에 송거
So then this verse and then encompasses within it all four of those opponent powers, which enable us to purify ourselves of any kind of negative action that we performed in the past. And if one does this in a complete fashion, such that all four powers are present within the act of confession, then there's no negative action whatsoever that can't be completely purified. This is illustrated by various instances that we find, for example, in the sutras, where the Buddha has given examples, and there's the stories of, for example, Ajatashatru, who is one of the kings of ancient India. He was guilty of causing his father to die, and so in effect had committed patricide. So that's, of course, one of the five sins or negative actions which have a kind of immediate retribution in the sense that if you commit one of these five negative actions, killing your mother, killing your father, killing an arhat and so forth, that those kinds of actions are so heavy that in your next life if you don't purify them throughout the course of that life, you'll definitely be reborn into a low state of existence, most likely hell, without any intermediate, going into any other life in between. So those kinds of heavy negative actions, there's another story of Angulimala, who killed 999 people. So he had created incredible negative karma in that way. And he had the intention actually to kill the Buddha as well, which is another extremely heavy negative karma. But because of encountering the Buddha and engaging in, in effect, doing a heavy kind of practice of confession, he was able to purify himself of all of that heavy negative karma, and eventually became an arhat, achieved nirvana at the end of that life. So there's those cases that illustrate from the sutras. And then likewise in the tantras, for example, in the Guhya Samaja, there's verses which say that if even somebody who's committed all five, the five extremely heinous actions, killing mother, father, etc., if they enter into this Vajrayana and practice, then they can achieve liberation, they can achieve Buddhahood in a single lifetime.
인자 다도세 아니 춥다 오마긴 하라야 아니 용의 일에이나 아니 타바 매바 송거래. 자자와는 타바 매바. 사삼이나 대우 많이 와서 우리 내줘라. 아니 참여빌래이나 야 타바. 어때요? 맞아. 다주라더니 지당 다주 잠밀에 자와나 타바. 양삽도 침발라 타바 손에 자주만 보여 이 말에.
Now in the lesser,
하고서 삽도.
So now in the lesser vehicle kind of explanation of the 5 heavy negative karmas that entail immediate karmic retribution or effects of being born in the lower realms and so forth, they say that in that interpretation that those kinds of actions are so heavy that heavily negative that there's no way to purify them, but in the greater vehicle and especially Vajrayana, then that's not accepted, and it says that there are ways to purify them. But now, of course, there are different levels of purification. There's purification in the sense of actually completely removing them entirely from one's mind stream so that there won't be any result whatsoever. That's the best case. And then there's lesser degrees of purification where one removes the potency from those negative actions such that the results won't be as heavy when you do have to experience them, so that they can be reduced in force so that the effect that one experiences from them might be relatively minor compared at least to experiencing rebirth in the lower realms of existence.
Oh yeah, that's so she be join me do down in the jambo. Sanje shundu me de bo ye do kananda shen la che ba sho ta gi chin sa be ge wa de dan dang zhuo wa kun. 这把这张老三这把也点兵年不人都杀些手。
Downey ring.